Again, I disagree with the premise. The Sustainable Jobs Act will create jobs, not kill them.
The honourable member, final question.
He could disagree with the premise all he wants, but it's his own government memos that says 2.7 million livelihoods in construction, energy, transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing will be lost because of that bill that's on the books. And what we've really seen here tonight is actually no details, no transparency, no plan, and an admission by their own C5 that all of their anti-development bills are holding Canada back, killing Canadian jobs, driving projects away, and $500 billion into the U.S. How can Canadians believe anything they say now?
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Whoo, another crazy night in the House of Commons. On the menu, we've got Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Tim Hodgson. He's Carney's boy, they say. And we've got MP Shannon Stubbs. She is the Shadow Minister for Energy and Natural Resources. She is one to watch, man. She points the finger and drives home questions like few others in the House of Commons. Let's take a look. Let's get into it. Wow. Quite a night.
Oh, yeah.
Order. Resuming debate. The honourable member for Lakeland.
Why does Bill C5 allow for exemptions from the Ethics and Conflicts of Interest Act?
The honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we're here today to talk about how the new government will get projects built.
Member.
To repeal C69.
The honourable Minister.
What the government will do is get the One Canadian Economy Act passed. That is how we will get projects built. If the members across the aisle would like to see projects.
Member.
Never build anything, no new pipelines, Bill C69.
The honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that is not what the Prime Minister and the Premier seem to think. They got together and they thought this was a great idea. They laid out the 5 criteria, which are in the Act. That is how we will get projects built. That is how we will make Canada an energy superpower.
The honourable member.
That's an admission. Bill C69 blocks projects. They wouldn't need C5 if it works. So what specific projects will be of the national interest?
The honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Premiers got together. They laid out 5 criteria. I can go through the 5 criteria if the member would like.
Order.
What specific projects will be of national interest? What specific projects will be of national interest?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member seems to be confused. The projects come after the bill is put in place. The bill will provide the certainty to unlock the conversations between.
The honourable member.
How do political hand-picked projects give investor certainty?
The honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the politicians do not pick the projects. The projects come up through a consultation between our government, the provincial governments, Indigenous peoples, and proponents. When those 4 groups come together to put a project together, it gets considered for national interest.
The honourable member.
Well, there are 28 energy and critical mineral projects in federal review stuck right now. Why not fast-track those?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member would like to see these projects accelerated, we hope they'll support the One Canadian Economy bill, and we will get going on those projects.
Member.
Crawford Nickel Cobalt Mine in the national interest.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Premiers got together and unanimously agreed on the 5 criteria. We will run.
The honourable member.
Petroleus Gold and Copper Mine.
The honourable Minister.
I think again the honourable member is proposing some hypothetical.
The honourable member.
Uranium Mine.
The honourable Minister.
Too fast.
Again, the member seems to be confused that we're talking about hypothetical projects. The projects that will come forward are specific projects with the support of.
The honourable member.
Seems to be confused. What I'm talking about is current real projects being proposed by real proponents stuck in their regulatory mess right now. Is the Denison Mine project in the national interest?
The honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as soon as we get the One Canadian Economy Act passed, we will run it through the process and we will make that determination. We hope the members across the aisle will help us get that done so we can build the strongest economy in the G7.
The honourable member.
Will the minister release that national interest project list?
The honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what will happen is once the bill is passed, hopefully with the support of our colleagues, projects will be designated and they will be published.
The honourable member.
Why is there a claim of the 2-year target for project approvals not in Bill C-5?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been very clear that the projects will be approved from the federal government's perspective within 2 years or less. He has given those KPIs to all of the ministers. We understand that is what.
The honourable member.
Uranium and energy projects in the U.S. are approved in as quickly as between 16 and 28 days. How does Canada compete?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, through this consultation, we've been speaking with CEOs of mining companies, CEO of energy companies. What they tell us is if we can deliver projects within approvals within 2 years, that would.
The honourable member.
The thousands of workers who have lost their jobs after all their anti-development policies. The Liberals say new pipelines only if there is a national consensus. What's national consensus?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, at the First Nations meeting 10 days ago, there was consensus to advance projects of national interest. Our government will work with the premiers, work with.
Order. Time has expired for that round.
Oh, yeah.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Will the Liberals repeal the industrial carbon tax?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we will do is pass the One Canadian Economy Act.
The honourable member.
How many OPEC countries have a carbon tax?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm the Minister of Energy in Canada. I'm focused on how we get Canada building again.
Member.
None. Does the U.S. have a federal industrial carbon tax?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure any of us are excited about the way the U.S. is running their country today.
The honourable
Speak
member.
for yourself.
Does the minister agree with the Prime Minister that we're in a crisis with the U.S.?
Honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister has said is we are in a trade war. We didn't ask for this trade war. The Americans declared it on us.
Honourable member.
So the U.S. doesn't have a federal industrial carbon tax. They're Canada's biggest customer and also biggest competitor because of these Liberals' anti-development laws. So how can it be possible that they would want to continue to tax Canadians when neither the U.S., Saudi Arabia, or Iran, for example, have federal industrial carbon taxes?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister has said is that we need to retool and rebuild our economy. We need to create new markets for our resources. We need to create new cards. That is what the One Canadian Economy Act will do.
Honourable member.
Do the top 5 countries competing with Canada in mining have an industrial carbon tax?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we're focused on here tonight is talking about the main estimates and talking about how we get our country going again. How we do that is we approve the.
The honourable member.
Does China have an industrial carbon tax?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm focused on Canada, not on China. We'll let the Chinese decide how they want to.
The honourable member.
Bill?
Again, I am focused on getting Canada building. I'm focused on the One Canadian Economy Act.
The honourable member.
Russia.
The honourable minister.
This is a great exercise. My answer will remain the same. I'm focused on getting Canada going again.
The honourable member.
How on earth can this minister say that he's focused on getting Canada going again and companies and workers building our country when he wants to maintain an industrial carbon tax that punishes Canadian workers and businesses when none of our competitors in oil and gas or mining have them?
Honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege of speaking with many different proponents, First Nations interested in oil and gas, and in the industry. They are supportive of the One Canadian Economy Act. They think it's how we will get the country going again. I really hope the members will join them in supporting this bill.
Member.
The Liberals' oil and gas cap will cut production by about 5% and $21 billion from Canada's economy. If the minister agrees we're in a national economic crisis, does the U.S. have a federal oil and gas cap?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think any of us are interested in being like the United States.
Member.
Does Iraq, Saudi Arabia, does Libya, does Iran?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've been through half the world at this point. My answer will remain the same. I'm focused on Canada.
Member.
Liberals can keep laughing, but the point is that they're saying they want to build Canada, but their anti-development policies make Canada, our workers and our businesses unable to compete globally. So actually, they're not going to help build Canada at all. So what will the minister say to the families of the more than 50,000 people who will lose their jobs because of their only one in the world Canadian oil and gas cap?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if we approve this act, we will build many projects of a national interest. We will build roads, we will build ports, we will build renewable energy, we will build transmission lines, and yes, we will likely build some pipelines. We will build some pipelines with their support. I hope they'll get on board and support this bill.
Honourable Member.
What does consensus mean?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as we talked about in Saskatoon, the Prime Minister and the Premiers agreed on a process for approving projects of national interest. The 5 criteria are laid out. As people bring those projects up.
The Honourable Member, a very brief final question.
The minister said he got lists from the provinces and will receive more. Will he release the list? And does he agree with the consensus of 79% Canadians and 80%?
The Honourable Minister, a brief response.
When the projects are designated, they will be made public.
Please do.
Oh, yeah.
Debate. The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
The minister spoke earlier about the importance of critical minerals in Canada. Can he confirm that all critical mineral development currently underway or planned will be subject to Canadian regulations, priorities, and benefits not directed by foreign governments or foreign laws?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we will develop our critical minerals in a way that benefits Canada. We will work with our allies to develop those critical minerals where it's appropriate and in Canada's interest.
The Honourable Member.
So, to be clear, is there any scenario where a foreign government would be allowed to select, fund, or control Canadian mining or processing projects on Canadian soil without full Canadian oversight and control?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been clear. We will work with our allies to develop critical minerals in a way that benefits Canada.
The Honourable Member.
Can we just get real here, though? Like, can the minister explain actually what's different between the 2022 critical minerals strategy and the 2025 critical minerals pathway? That this current government that can't actually develop or produce mines in time or competitive with other countries. What actually is the difference, and why should Canadians believe them now?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, under the bill, if we designate something as a project of national interest, of which many critical minerals are likely to be, we will make sure those projects are approved within 2 years or less.
The Honourable Member.
The minister said earlier and kept trying to claim that he doesn't approve projects, but his own bill says he does. Isn't that true?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think what we said is we don't pick the projects. As I explained, projects bubble up from consultations between the federal government, provincial government, Indigenous peoples, and most importantly,
of course, the point is exactly by that minister's answer, he will pick the projects. It will be a select list from select leaders, and they will pick the projects of national interest. How does that give investor certainty and confidence to all project proponents and investors, including all of the projects stuck in their federal queue right now that they should fast track?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the members seems to have the assumption that only one project of a kind will get picked. If the whole premise of this is if there are multiple projects of this, if there are multiple wind projects, if there are multiple transmission lines, if there are multiple.
The Honourable Member.
In fact, I've asked the minister a number of questions across all the sectors in natural resources, so he doesn't need to patronize me. Does he know which sectors lost the most jobs since May?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think that's a question for the Minister of Employment.
The honourable member.
I'll give him one more chance. Does he know which sectors lost the most jobs since May?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure how that's relevant to the main estimates here.
The honourable member.
Well, it's relevant because it was forestry, fishing, mining, quarrying, and oil and gas workers in Canada who lost the most jobs of any sectors in the entire Canadian economy since May last year and over the past lost anti-development Liberal decade.
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very glad the members on the opposite side of the aisle are worried about jobs, so they should help support the One Canadian Economy Act so we can get building again and put people back to work.
Honourable member.
Well, what I would like to know is, as the minister was told before, all of the jobs that will be risked in all these sectors from Bill C-50, since 2.7 million of those jobs are at risk, will the minister just tell us how many Canadians have to lose their jobs for him to consider the just transition, phasing out oil and gas in Canada, a success?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, I disagree with the premise. The Sustainable Jobs Act will create jobs, not kill them.
The honourable member, final question.
He could disagree with the premise all he wants, but it's his own government memos that says 2.7 million livelihoods in construction, energy, transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing will be lost because of that bill that's on the books. And what we've really seen here tonight is actually no details, no transparency, no plan, and an admission by their own C5 that all of their anti-development bills are holding Canada back, killing Canadian jobs, driving projects away, and $500 billion into the U.S. How can Canadians believe anything they say now?
The honourable minister, a brief response.
Mr. Speaker, in our consultations with premiers, Indigenous peoples, and proponents, they're excited about the One Canadian Economy Act. They're excited about the opportunity to build again quickly at paces we've never done before. We really hope the member will support us in getting this act on the books.
Resuming debate. Reprise.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow, I don't think MP Shannon Stubbs will be soon forgotten by Minister Tim Hodgson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources. My goodness, Shannon Stubbs is like She-Hulk. You won't like her when she's angry. What a time, what a night. We're going to get going, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of that. Canadian politics, very wild, man. The House of Commons, pretty crazy. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Come and check out one of our videos. Come and check out our live show. That's it. Thank you for watching. Shannon Stubbs is hard to forget. Unbelievable, man. She's amazing. Later, gang.